All right, so this is it. Hello, everybody. This is the Wealthy Ways podcast. We coming together as a group of people and talking about wealth and black wealth in particular. Um, my name is Malik Carter. I am a realtor, a real estate investor in Philadelphia market and also in North Carolina, and I flip houses, I renovate houses, and I'm starting on my journey of doing new construction. All right, and next we can go to you. Next, Jalil.
I'm Jalil Jones. I am the credit consultant. I too am into the real estate, but credit is my thing.
I appreciate it. And what's the name of your company?
Fix quick credit repair.
There you go. All right, cool. I will come to Sabine now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sabine Franco, also known as Sabine the Purpose Lawyer. I'm an attorney. I practice primarily out of New York, but some of my practice is national, and I focus on asset protection. So helping my clients sort of protect their assets and find ways to make them last long, and just kind of advising them on a lot of different business decisions. So that's where we are. I've been in business for about almost 8 years now, and still growing.
I appreciate that, Lindsay, and we'll come to Arthur last. Now we can't
Oh,
hear you.
we can't hear you. Are you on mute?
All right, so we're gonna fix that, and now we can go to Arthur and come back to you. We couldn't hear you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Arthur Robertson. I'm a financial advisor. I started my investment advisory firm named Third Eye Advisors. I also have a vegan food truck called Renegade Vegan. So yeah.
All right, Renegade, where's your truck?
So right now I want a food truck permit to park my car, to park the truck, downtown Brooklyn. It's called 16 Sycamore Park. It's like adjacent of the BAM music
Right,
hall.
got you.
Yeah, so we'll be there.
All right, so also we're gonna try to get the Lindsay now this time. See, nah, I think it's your headset. Before we can hear you, I think it's your headset.
Really loud. Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Yes.
we hear you.
Okay, so you guys can hear me now. I can hear you guys better on the headphones. So I'm Lindsay Smith. I am a licensed life insurance agent alongside with a registered rep, meaning that I do financial services. I take care of people financial planning alongside, obviously life insurance is my focus, but I also handle their um, investments in long-term care, health, and life.
All right.
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
hear you great. Hear you great. Thank you. I appreciate
Okay,
that.
okay. I gotta put the headphones on to hear you. I'm sorry that I'm out to dinner during this
No, no, no
time.
problem. I'm glad you can make it. I'm glad you can make it. He's actually the person that helped me get my life insurance straight when I didn't know what I was doing. And like, so the reason why I even decided to put this team together is because I've done pretty well over the years in real estate, right? I mean, have a pretty decent career, and I made it a decent amount of money, and I really thought that I knew a lot about financial security and financial wealth in general. But when I had my most recent son and trying to figure out how to pass down wealth, I realized that I didn't know hardly anything. Like, all I know is real estate, right? So I will go to a financial advisor. They would tell me one thing. I will go to a tax accountant. They would tell me one thing, and the attorney would tell me something different. And coming around and bringing everybody. So I was like, listen, you know what? I need to put a whole team together to figure out what it is. And so in that situation, I'm like, okay, so there's more people that have problems like me. and that's the whole purpose, right? And one of the most important things, and I think that we could probably start right here, about life insurance, and we're talking about some mistakes that I had made. Matter of fact, before we even continue, I do want to let you guys know that there is a question to answer. So all of us will be here for the next 40, 50 minutes to answer any questions that you might have. So please share this, like it, and put a comment in, and any question, whether it's for you or anybody else. But so one of the things, so with life insurance, right? And so my dad died almost 4 years ago in December, and my mom told me is that she had a 30-year, almost a 30-year term policy, right? And so the policy expired in April, and my dad died in December, right? So for after 30 years, she got nothing. The 30 years of payments on his insurance policy, right? She got nothing. And so that really, got me like really moving to find out like the best professional, the best people that could come and help me out. And like I said, Lindsay, she helped me out. She got my insurance and also on my kids. So messages, Lindsay, can you at least tell everybody why you told me I should get insurance on my kids and the benefit of having insurance and the policy you gave me? Nah, still, you gotta put your headset. You gotta put your headset out.
My mic. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. So basically when it comes to life insurance, there's no age that is too young or too old to get life insurance. We all should have life insurance, right? Because obviously, there's unexpected deaths, there's different things that happen. And so whenever I am dealing with a client, I make sure that they not only insure themselves, but they insure their children, their parents. Because like in Malik's situation where his mother has a term policy and the policy ran out, um, that is a case of the agent really not talking to the client about the long term and short term of having life insurance, right? And so when somebody purchases a term policy and then later on in life the term policy ends and they don't have any insurance and now it's so expensive, it puts them in a bad space. So to alleviate them becoming, having to get in that situation, it's better to have your kids have insurance, have your parents have insurance, make sure you and your spouse have insurance. This way we don't come to a point where you don't have coverage, right? We plan for the long term and the short term of having coverage. And so, dealing with Malik, the reason why I told him to get insurance on the kids, when you have kids, they don't have to do a medical. It's very affordable. And this way, as they get older, if they never got their own insurance, they have that insurance that their parents got for them. It's paid up. And now they can, not have to worry about at least not having their burial taken care of or, leaving a couple of dollars behind to their family. And it really puts Malik in a space where he created generational wealth because he got insurance on his kids, but in all actuality, that money actually goes to his kids' beneficiaries, right? Which means if when his kids have kids, which are his grandkids, that's really who the money is left behind too. So he has created something where he left generational wealth behind, and that's something that we have to focus on because the other cultures are doing this all the time, buying insurance on kids, and and we're not doing it, and it doesn't make sense. Why are we not doing it? It's the cheapest time for getting insurance is when you're young. So if you're a child, that's the cheapest time. It's before they have all the health issues and everything like that that comes into play, as life happens. So you want to have your kids insured. You want to insure yourself. You want to make sure your parents are insured because GoFundMe is not the wave.
Or
It's
French fries.
not the wave,
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that. Anybody got a comment on that?
I mean, I just think it's valid. You know, like before I got life insurance, even I thought it was just like something that people had to tell you. You know what I mean? Like people just had to tell you that's what they do. That's how I thought. But then I got educated on it and I realized that it's also a tool. And you know, I know there's a lot of strategies with life insurance as well in terms of like sheltering your income and then also I'm not sheltering your assets. And then also like when you get advanced in age, you may use life insurance or invest in life insurance versus like the stock market because it's more volatile. So, you know, it's good to get it now and get in and then also to kind of understand the different things that could be done with it.
Hey, would it be recommended for a person to get 2 policies on himself or herself? Like if they had multiple children?
Hmm.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So the amount of policies you have has to do with how much you can afford, right?
Right.
It's not really the amount, it's the amount of death benefits you have. So if when you're younger and you don't have kids, you might buy a small, policy just to take care of burial. But now you're married, you have children, you need more coverage. So you're gonna have to get a new policy because you have to add coverage. So it's very important that you get how many of the policies it is. I have 12 policies, right? People say,
Wow.
oh my goodness, but I have
Really,
12,
Lindsay?
because over time I started buying insurance at 25. I'm 39, right? So my income has increased. So every time my income increased and I was able to afford more, I got more, right? And then there's different types of policies. So there's temporary policies, there's permanent policies. So as I got older, I wanted to focus more on getting more permanent insurance. This way, it didn't have a time frame. Like with Malik's situation with his mom, what happened was that she had a term policy, and so when the term ended, she didn't have insurance anymore, and she unfortunately passed at that point. Which is the most common thing that happens is people get a term policy, don't buy any permanent coverage, and they pass after the term ends and you have nothing. So I wanted to make sure that my permanent coverage was just as heavy as my term coverage as I made more money. And then also as I made more money, I got more and more insurance on my daughter, so that she was able to have a significant amount of insurance where she wouldn't have to get insurance if she didn't feel like it when she got older, right? Because it was so cheap to get it, while she's young. So
Mhm.
I do suggest that if your income increase, that you have more insurance, meaning you get another policy. Also, it layers your insurance. So some people may have a 20-year term policy and you got it at 25 and now you're 35. So if you get another 20-year, now you have a portion where it overlaps. But later on, there's a point where that last term, I'm sorry about the noise, where that last term will last longer than that first term. Okay? So it's not so much about how many policies, it's really about having the right amount of coverage that's going to protect your family and all of your different things that you're covering. So if you have mortgages, right? If your kids are going to college and you want to cover college, these are things that you might want to cover with your insurance. And so as those things come about, you want to obviously have insurance to cover those items.
Yeah, no, listen, Lindsay, we had like an hour-long conversation, man. Like before I even committed to her, we had like an hour-long conversation about the different coverages and the whys. I mean, like, and it really goes deep, and how much you could use. But let me get over to the comments real quick. 1 second. Basima, you have a question about doing a trust to help avoid probate and inheritance taxes. Um, is that
Mhm.
your question? Is that your question to do a trust to avoid inheritance taxes? I don't know. We can. I guess we can speak to that. Would that be? I guess Arthur and Sabine, if you guys can tackle that.
Yeah. So a trust will allow you to avoid probate. It kind of depends. So I don't like to give people like blanket answers, but specifically to what you're speaking about, a trust does allow you to avoid probate, and what that means is you don't have to actually, or your heirs, those who are going to benefit from your estate, won't actually have to go to court to have access to the assets or the benefits that you have left to them. So a trust is basically a document that it's sort of like functions like a business entity. So like it can own things, it can contain things, it can sort of transact, and the person who is put in charge of doing that is the trustee. So it could be yourself, depending on the type of trust, or it could be someone else, but the trustee actually is the person who kind of runs the show and kind of deals with all of the assets that are in the trust. So yes, it does allow you to avoid probate. It does allow you to avoid whatever fees are associated with probate. It allows you to avoid, um, certain things that the courts may impose on your heirs, like maybe having to post a bond or something like that. So it is a good tool for that purpose. For the most part, trusts are usually recommended, unless you have just a super simple estate and not much really going on. But there's also tons of different types of trust depending on your situation. So I don't. Maybe Arthur wants to speak to the tax portion. We can't hear you.
You're muted, Arthur.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So no, typically with clients, we advise the clients, for one, trust accounts are a little expensive, especially considering where you are financially. Sometimes instead of a trust account, we may just recommend they list their assets in a will or something, because if in my opinion, I think trusts are really expensive. So just depending on the client's situation, if they have the assets that justifies the means to opening a trust account, then we would recommend it. But the tax implications, the fees associated with it, it's a little pricey. What do you agree, Sabine?
You're muted.
I can't.
I'm still getting used to this.
All right.
So in terms of the account portion, I mean, you may be correct on that one, but in terms of actually having a trust, it may save the family a lot of heartache. Like for instance, if you're somebody who has um, real estate in multiple states. Now, if you have a will that just says that you leave your properties to whoever your respective family members, now they're gonna have to go to each state and probate that will in order to get a hold of your assets. So I mean, things may be changing because the courts are now realizing that they should be online for a lot of things and stuff like that. But I don't know how soon it's going to change, and if it's going to make things easier in the long run. But for right now, something like that would be pretty much a pain in the butt. Um, and then the other thing is that because a will has to go to court, it basically becomes public at that point. So it's not wrong. Wills are not a wrong tool, but there's just maybe some reasons why you may not want to just rely on that. And I think just because, everybody's situation is unique. Arthur, your position is valid. So it kind of just depends, which is the lawyer answer that nobody likes.
Right. All right. So
I have a question for Sabine.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Sabine? I have a question.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so regarding to the will and the trust, right? Because I get this question all the time,
Mhm.
especially with the life insurance, because I know the life insurance can go in the trust, right, and fund the trust. So my question is, do you think when people are concerned about how to distribute their life insurance money,
Uh-huh.
right, and they're concerned that they're leaving a large amount of money to a family member, would you suggest that they put the life insurance in the trust? Do you think it's worth it financially based on how much it costs to set up a will for them to get like a spendthrift where they can kind of determine how that money is spent, or do you think that it's not worth it for somebody who doesn't really have, have that much income, but they're able to still have $1 million insurance? Do you think it's worth it for them, or is it cost effective for them to have a trust where they put the life insurance in the trust?
I mean, I usually do recommend that it be done that way, unless there's a different another reason. Because, and you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, if their beneficiaries fail to take, like say for instance, they list certain beneficiaries and those beneficiaries either are not around or not able to benefit, that do those funds stay in the life insurance, basically stay with the company? That's my understanding. But so that's one reason why I typically do recommend it. But also spendthrift, and if you have like any family member that's disabled, that's typically another reason why you would want to have those funds go into a trust. Like, especially like if you were somebody who, just regular working class, didn't have a lot, but you did have the wherewithal to get a life insurance policy. And now somebody who presumably may not be financially educated, doesn't have to be the case, but we're just going to go with that, gets $1 million. That could be dangerous and it could also be a waste. And you don't want that. So you can kind of spread it out, over time. Like I think with Whitney Houston, she actually used a will, but she had her daughter, she gave her daughter like, I think a percentage, I forget the percentage of it, but it ended up being like just like a million or so dollars when she turned 21. And then she was supposed to get like another couple million when she turned 25 or something like that, but she passed before that. So, and then unfortunately for her, she ended up having a drug problem. So a young person with all that money, it could be dangerous. So if you're looking at something like that and you have the funds where you can set up the trust, then I think that would be beneficial, because the accounting portion would be basically on the person who is the beneficiary, presumably, if you didn't have much going on in the trust before that. And so with $1 million, they should be able to afford to handle it.
All right. Thank you.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Malik. With the trust, so say you have a child in college, and can you designate the trust to pay living expenses for that child?
Yeah, so you can have distributions for specific things. You know what I mean? So you could say this: my child has to go to college, or I want to be able to support them through this venture. Some trusts will allow the beneficiaries to take a loan from the trust if they want to start a business or do something like that. So yeah, it can kind of be designed however to meet your needs. That's why they tend to be sort of specific. I mean, there's different categories and different kinds, but then depending on what the situation is, it will be, kind of customized in a sense.
All right. I appreciate that. But Seema, hopefully that answered your question. I know you said that a quick follow-up for Sabine, pretty much. Wait, no, it says, do I need a lawyer to draft it myself?
I know there's a lot of DIY stuff out there. I would be very leery to draft a trust yourself, because it's basically you're setting up something that's going to receive your assets, right? So like you may be titling stuff to that trust. And so because of that, it's very risky. If you do something wrong, the trust may not be able to do what it is that you want it to do. So I wouldn't recommend it, but hey, I'm sure somebody will talk you into it.
Nah, listen, don't. I'm gonna just say don't do it. Don't do it yourself. At all. You want to make sure it's done right. And the last thing you need to do something wrong, and then you don't find out till you're dead.
Exactly. It's like it's no way to find out really until it works.
Then you out of here. The kids fist fighting because the paperwork wrong. Nah, you don't need that. You don't need that. All right, and so I'm gonna take the last comment that you wrote. But it said, is for a family home. Now, I personally, as a real estate person, I don't believe in a family home. Like normally, what family homes are just houses with tangled titles where your uncle won't leave no matter what happens. Like that's pretty much what a family home normally is. If that's not your situation, then I get it. But most of the times, you know, you have a property and it was your grandma's house, and then it goes to the siblings, no will. It just assumed that it's the siblings, that one of the siblings may pass away and they got kids and an ex-wife, but the house is really still in granny name, you know. And so yeah, people could live there, but who's responsible for the property? Who's responsible for the bills? Who's responsible when it's time to sell the property? Then what happens, right? So as a real estate person, I don't believe in a family home. It you can't put it in the trust and to tell you exactly who was, you know, who was for and what it's supposed to happen. Um, a lot of the times they always say, you know, and I'm a big believer in keeping properties, right? I flip houses, but I don't like to sell houses, even the ones that I renovate to sell. But sometimes the best thing for the family might be to sell, especially if it's going to cause like a problem financially or a burden, right? There's always that one person, whether they are or are not, that's going to feel like they're doing more than everybody else, you know, and that may cause something. So it really needs to belong to a person or maybe have a trustee when it comes to a family home. Hopefully, I answered.
Can a property in a trust, can you borrow it? Can the trust borrow against that property?
If it has the right, I mean, if it has the right to within the trust. So it depends how the trust was set up and what it was set up for. And if it gives that permission to the trustee to do so, it's possible, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna tackle. I'm gonna leave one more comment, and then I'm actually gonna got some questions for Arthur. All right, so Blessed 1981 asks, oh, this is for you, Lindsay. She thought the kids were added as a rider under your policy. You're muted again.
We can't hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the kids added to your policy as a rider is one thing. The kids being your beneficiary is another thing. So a rider on a policy just means that you may have added your children as you wanted to cover them and you didn't get them individual policies. The thing, I don't ever suggest that. I mean, if somebody financially is in a space where they're not able to get their kids individual policies, then yes, of course, covering them as a rider on your policy, you can get. They'll usually give you like 5 or 10,000 for if something happens to any kids. It depends on the company. Some companies let you do it up to age 18. Some companies cover them to 25. The thing about that is the rider is temporary. It's like a term on your kids, right? They don't build any asset, no cash value or anything. So it really, it's really not an asset, but it does allow somebody to cover their kids if they're not able to get them their individual policies. So I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. But that's totally different than beneficiaries. A beneficiary is who you are leaving the death benefit to when you die, right? So if you own the policy, or your husband or whoever owns the policy and you pass away and your beneficiaries are your kids, that means they receive the money. But be clear that if a child is your beneficiary, they do not receive any money until they are 18. They do not give minors money. So if you do not have a custodian, which is a person that you have in place to collect that money on their behalf, or the other option is obviously it waits out till they're 18, it goes in escrow, and it gains interest. And then when they turn 18, they'll get that money, whatever it grew to be at that point, they'll get that money. So if you don't have somebody that you trust to be a custodian, then you put your children, and then obviously nobody gets anything until they're 18. So if you have young children, you might want to figure out a situation of somebody you trust, whether it's your spouse, your mother, whoever you have. But adding kids as a rider is different than adding them as a beneficiary to receive the money when you pass away.
All right. Hopefully that answered your question, Bless 1981. So now there's no more other questions up here. So I want to ask you a question. So in my opinion, I think that, and people trying to build wealth, I think that I think that first staple should be life insurance. That's my personal opinion, right? Now, let me mute Lindsay real quick. All right. No, it's all good. So now, all right, so Arthur, so after I get my I get life insurance, right? Let's just say if you're a W-2 person, right, and let's say you max out the your 401k, then what else can you do to start putting away money?
I would say the very first thing to do when you're planning for retirement is always to pay off your debt. Debt is never good because you're mainly paying interest. So after you pay off your debt and you are ready to invest, of course, real estate is always the way to go. But I recommend a lot of my clients to the stock market. The stock market is the longest growing asset, dating back to the Great Depression. The stock market has always gone up over time. It fluctuates, but it's always went up through different market fluctuations. You've seen the last recession. You see a lot of stock market corrections, but over time, the stock market always goes up. It always exceeds inflation.
All right, so what vessel would you? I mean, so I'm thinking about if you're employed, if you max out your 401k, right? Then can they go to like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or what kind of?
So it depends. So like what you could do is what they call a Roth IRA. That's where you can open a brokerage account with after-tax dollars, and over time that income you won't pay taxes until you just make distributions after you retire, basically after you turn 65. Basically you wouldn't have to pay taxes on that money because it's made with after-tax dollars. So you could start adding stocks to that account. And if let's say you have a 401k and you change employers, you can always open a Roth rollover IRA, and with that you can invest in different assets with those retirement funds from your old 401k. So just as an example, I used to work for UBS and I had an old retirement account there, old 401k. I opened up a Roth IRA at TD Ameritrade, and I was able to put down money on a house. I was able to buy other stocks. I was able to buy gold. You could basically buy a lot of things when you open a rollover.
Oh, you bought
IRA.
Physical gold with that money?
Yeah, you can open. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I made a post about it previously. Yeah, so it's called a self-directed IRA. So with that account, you can invest in other assets like precious metals, which is gold. You could even invest in real estate. You could use money from a self-directed IRA as a down payment on a property, for example.
So me, what I did is I bought precious metals for a while, right? I started to buy, I didn't buy any gold, right? So, but I was buying silver, and what I started to do was like 4 years ago, and like if I was invited to a baby shower, or if I was invited to, like a 1 year birthday party, what I would do is instead of buying something, I might give them like an ounce of silver or something. But now recently, like silver's been going crazy recently. Like I think it's like from 4 years ago, it's up like 40-50%.
Right.
So I want those silver bars back. I gave away too many of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're a hot commodity, especially some of the old gold coins that are high in demand.
I started, start buying more, but I didn't buy any gold. Like I said, silver was, that was kind of in my wheelhouse. I can afford. So I can. At the time I was buying it, it was like $17 an ounce. At the time gold was, I think like 1,600 an ounce, and so I said I just went to silver rock.
I heard at one point the U.S. it was costing them 9 cents to make a nickel, and so they were losing money on every single nickel that they were printing. Which I don't know if that's still the case, but
I
until
mean, no, I think in general, I think they do, but I mean nowadays, man, I think that what they call as fiat currency is being phased out anyway, right? I don't think I very rarely since March, I only use cash in the hood. That's anywhere else. Everything.
that's so funny.
I even got all my contractors. I started to get them on PayPal now. I got them, taking digital payments. I really don't handle even cash or checks, really hardly. So yeah, that's not even gonna be a problem too much longer. That's
No,
why that Square stock is going crazy right now. Since March, Square's been out of control.
really.
Yeah, and actually, in the now Square, they're trying to make it so they have a program so now your employers can pay you your payroll on Cash App.
Are you serious?
Yeah, nah, Square, yeah, they want all that money. You muting Jalil.
You get your direct deposit to
You get
Cash
direct
App?
deposit from Cash App, and you
Wow.
get it.
So that's the new rush card.
Hey, listen, it's the new Rush card. You can definitely get it paid working out on Cash App. So nah, Square's definitely coming for the gusto. But
That's kind of scary though, because I heard that Cash App tends to get hacked. Like people could just go in and wipe your wallet out, so that you shouldn't like keep money in there. I don't know. It's a rumor. I don't know if it's valid.
I mean, I don't keep any money in Cash App. I mean, if it's like, if somebody puts money in there, then I'm going to probably spend it within that week. But I'm definitely not going to use. So when I first started buying stocks in March, I was buying stocks on Cash App. That was my first intro to buying stocks.
Like through Cash App. Okay.
Yeah,
Malik, you
yeah.
froze.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So so listen. All right. So real quick. So Arthur. So now, what's the maximum amount you could put into? What's the maximum amount you could put into that raw?
So I forgot what they changed the limit.
I know at one point it was 6,000. I think they were raising it, but I don't know if that was true or not.
They changed they raised the limit. I forgot what it is now. Let me get back to you on that one.
Okay, I got you. So
And it's
so
temporary. Is it temporary, Arthur? I think it's temporary.
It's 6,000 for
Oh, okay.
2020.
You double it?
I thought they doubled it too.
Yeah,
No, it's 6,000 if you're single. If you're married, you're able to double it, and if you're 50 and above, you could do 7,000
Mm.
for 2020.
okay.
all right, now is there anything else that you could put the money in?
Yeah, you can do if you have a business, you can do a SEP and do 25% of your income. Um
You
and,
recommend that,
and
Lindsay? What do
I,
you think about it?
if you're a business owner and
Sure.
a Roth or a an IRA, honestly, the little $6,000 that you're putting in there, if you're making $250,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna make more sense that you can put 25% of that,
Got
right?
it. Mm-hmm.
For you to put 6,000 because you get the write off. I mean, you get to write that amount, defer that amount, and help you on your taxes. So I think it's a good idea for somebody who's a business owner, who doesn't have any other retirement happening. I honestly feel like when it comes to finance, you have to have multiple options. There's no one right
Yeah.
option that's just everything, right? I think that you should have multiple options. If you qualify for a SEP because you own a business, it's 25% of what you do your business. Why not? Why not put the 25% away? It's not a Roth, right? That's a traditional. So you're going to pay taxes later on that. If you qualify to put money away for a Roth, which means you make a certain income, you know, you can't make $250,000 and put money into a Roth unless
Right.
you're going through an employer, right? They have Roths now. If you're with an employer, they have the Roth 401k. My job allows it, where you can contribute to a Roth up to making the 250,000, right?
Mhm.
But as a personal, you can't do that. So most people who make a higher income won't qualify to even contribute to a Roth.
Got
But you know, so there's different options. You can invest obviously in the stock market. There's annuities. There's you know, there's mutual funds. There's bonds. There's all different kind of things you can invest in. You have to just see what works for your plan and your portfolio. But I honestly think having more than one thing, like for me personally, you know, life insurance is one aspect where you have the fixed side. You don't have to worry about that money going down. I have
Mhm.
the TD Ameritrade where you do your stocks. I have mutual funds, ETFs, bonds, right? And in addition to that, I contribute to a bunch of different things. I have my 401k at the job where I put everything in the Roth. I don't put anything on the traditional side. I don't qualify for a Roth as an individual. Um, and then obviously, you know, you do other things. You invest, you have savings, you have high yield savings accounts. You know, for the kids, you have 529s plus mutual funds plus you know, high yield bank accounts. So I think that if you can save money in all of the different avenues, I mean, you don't never have to worry about not having an option if you have a hardship, right? Because in a
Mhm.
hardship, you know, there's different rules for the different accounts that you have, right? And that's where life insurance plays a big part as the wealth building tool. Because for people like now, when this pandemic happened, and you know, even though they did give people some leeway with taking money out of their 401ks and 403bs and 457s, you still, for the most part, have to pay that money back.
Yeah.
So if you had life insurance, you could have borrowed from yourself and you wouldn't have had to pay that money back if you didn't want to, right?
Mm.
If you had, you know, mutual funds or, you know, different just investment accounts that you owned, not under the IRA rules or the SEP rules or the simple IRA rules, um, you were able to take that money if you needed it,
Yeah.
right? So, but you know, obviously, when the market crashes, that's not the time to pull your money out the market. You want to wait till the market's up. So
Mhm.
that's where those fixed options come into play. So I tell people it's great to make money in the market. And you know, I'm a firm believer. I have a lot of money in the market, but I do think that you need fixed access too. Because when the market is not doing well, I don't want to touch the money in the market.
Right. No, like I said, so I'm like my journey, like I said, in stocks. I just I just started buying, you know, back in March, you know, when I was trying to find my way. And as a matter of fact, let me do this. Let me shout out this guy right here. So by the hood, it's my guy Jimmy. They stopped using silver and coins because of that. I guess what's being talking about as far as the expense
Mhm.
of taking them. So so yeah, man. So I've been, you know, really trying to find my way like around the stock market. So
Candace was the
I spent, you know, good money on taking courses. Um, you know, I took courses on just buying stocks, and like it wasn't really till I started to study it that I realized like how powerful it was. Right when I look at stock, I think about stocks. I think of I put a bunch of money, I get a little bit of money, and eventually one day it's worth a lot more. Hopefully, right? That was my vision of how stocks work. But now after studying it, I'm like, damn, okay, there's ways I could get paid every week. There's ways I could get paid every quarter. There's ways I can get paid every day, right? Depending on what it is. And a lot of money and a little bit of money. But, all money added to the pot is important. So I took options trading classes. I'm taking a bond class. I'm, doing long-term options, just buying the stock and sell, but the long-term portfolio. But it's hugely important that people to really start to build that long-term portfolio and not only just buy a stock. I know a lot of times the typical advice, well, just buy what you use. And I used to even tell people that buy what you use, because if you use it, millions of other people use it. But is that company a good company? Like right now, we might ride around and use Exxon. Exxon is trash right now. I wouldn't consider buying an Exxon stock, but that's the advice that I used to give, and people would listen, and I know what I'm talking about. You know, so
No,
so
it's funny you say that because I did the same thing like a couple of years. I want to say before I went to law school, so probably like 10 years ago. I had started getting an interest in stocks, right? And I wanted to kind of know about it, but there wasn't information out like it was now. I did come across this company called the Motley Fool. Some of you probably know of them. And so I started sort of like following them and getting their advice. But with them, everything was an upsell. So they will only tell you like blue chip stocks, and then otherwise they wouldn't tell you nothing. They'd be like, oh, you gotta pay for this extra level. So I kind of got bored with it. But I did have a stock account, and I did have like, a few stocks. I bought Facebook when they first IPO'd. I bought, I did have Tesla, and I had Apple, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was going by that advice too, like buy what you use. But now that I'm getting educated on it, I'm like, okay, but you really have to understand the fundamentals of the company. Um, so I mean, it's interesting, but you definitely got to dig a little deeper.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, you guys probably can't
Now
hear
we
me.
hear
We
you.
Yeah,
hear you.
definitely. When it can you
Yeah.
hear
Yeah,
me? Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's definitely important that before we start telling people to jump into the market, that we also tell them to understand it, because what happens to individuals is they jump in the market because other people are saying they're making money in the market, and then they go in and they lose money, and then they're like, it didn't work out like that for me,
right,
and then they're upset. So, people have to understand that they got to understand how to research companies. Um, they have to understand what they're doing, understand who the CEOs are, understand all of the different aspects, and learn as much as they can before they put their last dollar in the market. People also have to understand the market. You're putting in money that you can stand to lose,
right,
Right.
right? You're not playing with your bill money in the
right,
market. It's not that. That's why they ask you what your risk tolerance is, because if you're honest with yourself, you're supposed to say, okay, this is what I can afford to do. This is what I can't afford to do. And, I can't stand to lose this. I'm not in position to lose this. I'm not playing with that money. But obviously, that's just not what's happening out here now. Because just like there was a point in which is still a point where real estate is a big thing and everybody wants to get in real estate without knowing all of the different parts of, and Malik could tell you all the different parts of having a rental property.
Right.
There's times where you
right,
may not have a tenant. There's times where you have a tenant that's not paying. There's times where you have, work that has to be done on the house. So people are jumping out here, getting properties, and then they're living house broke personally.
Right.
yeah,
And that means you shouldn't have a property, as an investment if you can't afford your own house.
Right.
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 Right. So
Oh,
and putting their bill money in the stock market, and I'm getting DMs and people are like, oh, I saw your account and I brought what you had, it didn't work for me. I didn't never tell you to follow what my account said. You I showed my account on Instagram. I didn't say follow what I put in there,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you
Right.
lose because you got in. I got in at a cheap price, and you saw the ticker, and you went and got in at a high price and it goes down, like it didn't work for you. So, you know, that's what's happening now. People are just, they keep asking people, what you investing in? What ticker you getting? And they just following people.
Right. Hey, so look, I'm gonna say this, right? So
And
I
they
first
chasing it. Get out my bag.
right,
And they're chasing it, you know, and it's too late when they jumping on it.
right. So look, what I did, let me tell you this. What I did, I actually ended up I stopped posting, right, my picks because I would explicitly say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm buying this stuff, cross my fingers and hope it works. I would say that at my post. I would say, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I would get DMs like, yeah, I bought this because you bought it. But you did the whole thing? I said, I know what I'm doing. You know, and so, and then that told me right there that I can't even post it. I'm not gonna really post anything. So now I rarely post anything. People know that I'm buying, and I really post because I see the importance of it. I really want people to get involved. And I didn't get involved in the stock market because I was intimidated by it, right? I was like, and so I was really intimidated. And so I understand why people just ask, like, I want to invest, but I'm gonna just do what you do. But it's like, nah, you really gotta commit to it. But I'm talking about people. Listen, last week, two different people sent me DMs because they were trying to sell a company. I think it was like WTI or something like that. They're trying to sell it, but they couldn't sell it on cash. I think the problem was the Cash App, but the stock market halted trading. So their money is locked up in this company that's no longer even on the exchange. You know, and now they burnt. You know, and like you got in and they got in off of my Cash App days in March. I'm like, I did that shit in March. Like, why you even still in that stock? You weren't watching it? Like, and it was just going down constantly, man. And they stayed two different people, not even just one person. I'm like, yo, y'all don't do what I do. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I know real estate. That's my lane. I don't tell you nothing else. I'll if people call me and ask me, they ask me like, yo, Malik, what you gonna do with Tesla? What you gonna do with Apple? And I don't know, like with splits, like I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what I'm going to do. But what I didn't do was buy either one. I didn't buy either one right when they split. I bought my stuff before at my Apple before they split. I never bought any Tesla, and I bought an ETF that has Tesla in it, but I didn't buy any Tesla outright. But now, like I said, people they just hoping, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do this right here, man. So hopefully, people will, hear like my story in particular, and I know there's other people that can relate to me, but aren't willing to say it. Like people not really willing to admit that they were intimidated by the stock market, not willing to admit that the life insurance mistakes, not willing to admit real estate losses, not willing to admit. And me, I would rather post my losses than post my wins because that's the more important stuff. Like with real estate, if you're doing rentals, it's pretty easy to win. Just don't buy it too high. But what else? I posted a story just today. My tenants turned the keys into a property on Friday. I went there yesterday to get ready to clean the house out. There's people still living in there. Like she turned the keys in, but she was renting rooms out illegally in the joint, and she didn't tell the people renting rooms that she get her house up, and she was on Section 8.
Wow.
So she making a killing. So the thing is, she on Section 8 collecting that money, and not even giving my portion of the bread. Her portion of the rent and bills is piling up. It's just craziness. But she rolled on out and left them people in the rooms. Now I got to deal with them. Like nobody talk about these parts of real estate. This issues, and that's one of the reasons why I don't promote the Burr method. But we could go into a Burr method another day. We only got 5 minutes left, right? So I don't want to jump because that's a whole other issue. That people don't like when I say that I'm not a huge fan of the Burr method, but part of it is because I've been through a foreclosure. Right. And so because I was doing a Burr, doing it wrong. And people see, they watch bigger pockets and everything else, and they say, "Oh, Burr is it." But you have to learn how to use it. Is a good strategy if you know how to implement it, right? If you just go in there and think you're going to refinance everything, it's all love, but it ain't. You have to put a strategy behind it, right? And so, that's my thing. So once again, like I said, I rather share my losses and share the negative part than the wins. And then, like I said, hopefully people can learn from it. But listen, anybody out there, don't do what I do, because I don't. I started in March. I'm taking classes, but I do want to share this real fast. So it's about a hood. So she made a great point about people doing research. Truth is, most people probably shouldn't own individual companies because they are not willing to do the research. And I agree with that comment, Jimmy, but that's because I spent the money and I took the time to study up and learning that it's not good to just buy a company that you haven't researched, and learn how to do it. And by the way, the guys at Buy the Hood, they do have a course, a stock basics and stock analysis course that I did take, and I'm in their group, and it's a really good group, and I get a lot of information, and like we share information. It's a good space, and it's really affordable course. For disclosure, I am an affiliate, but whether you go through me, go through them, go through somebody, just get learned up on this space.
And I have one thing to say about that too. So I don't know if people know, if you have a TD Ameritrade account, right? Um, they give free courses on learning the stock market, learning how to research a company, learning strategy. They do all kind of courses. It's free if you are a TD Ameritrade client and you have your stocks with them. So take advantage of, for people who are in a financial bind, it's still no reason for you to not get educated. There's a lot of free education out there. Obviously, if you can pay for courses, that's great, because education will help you make money. But also, there's a lot of free education out there that you can be a part of as well. So it's no excuses on not learning the information.
That was a
Right.
great
No,
step. I didn't know that.
oh, listen, it's definitely a ton of free information. So
Yeah, they actually
Okay.
have a course this week about understanding the charts. That they send it out to you and actually, do you want to be a part of it? And it's actually virtual this whole week. I'm actually a part of it this week. I missed today's session, but I'm gonna log on for the rest
yeah,
of the
so
days.
I actually did that 2 weeks ago. I did it. They had it was a 4-day technical analysis course, and I ended up logging off of a TD Ameritrade because I got lost at a certain section, and I couldn't ask a question and tell them when to go back. And so I do want to watch it again to learn more about technical analysis. Actually, what we do is only a minute or so left. So I guess later on another day, we'll talk about the difference between technical analysis and fundamental analysis, and companies, and try to really evaluate in companies. But now it's a whole lot more new winners. Today that Snowflake went crazy today when the IPO. I think went up to it shut up to like 340, something like that, and then dropped back down to 250, but it's still
Okay.
over 100% the day of the IPO. That's crazy. But I'm not an IPO guy. I don't think I'll ever buy IPO. But I like to see the performance before I buy. But something else that I learned, recently.
Through
So,
education.
yeah, with the education. So yeah, get that free education. And so, by the time you do get into a community, you know what you're talking about, the conversation, you can have deeper level conversations, but and that's one thing, like even you do, buy, I don't think you do it in a vacuum.
Frozen.
You keep freezing up.
Yeah, I don't hear him either. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear
I
you.
hear you.
Oh, you can. Wow, it's working on the headphones now. I have one other suggestion. I actually learned a lot from the Trappers Anonymous class,
From who?
or from Wall Street Trapper, his Trappers Anonymous class. I
Okay.
joined that not years ago, months ago, when he first started it, and he gives so much information, like
Okay.
really a lot of information about different things, different topics about how to study a company. Also, he'll give information on how to learn, to study income statements, where to get your information from, how to know if a company is, how to measure the debt of a company. Really just how to figure out do research on the CEOs, everything, honestly. And it really has helped my research game a lot. So for the little monthly bill that you pay for that, like I got in when it was $19.99. I think now it might be like $27 or $29. But they even have like Ticker Tuesday, where everybody kind of puts the ticker up and tells the research about it. Like, it's so many things. There's books that is like a book part to it. But I think the amount of information that you get from that, if you're somebody new to the stock market, it's great for people just starting, and it's great for people who are experienced as well.
And that's the Wall Street
Trapper.
That's the
Trapper.
Wall Street Trapper. His thing is Trappers Anonymous. That's what his is called.
Okay.
I know Ian Dunlop has one too, but his is way more expensive for the average person. They won't be able to get into his course. I heard his is good as well, but his is $5,000 one shot deal for the year. So if you don't have the $5,000, that's going to kick you out of that. With Trappers Anonymous, I think the average person will be able to get into that for $29.99 a month.
No, it's $19.99, $19 a month.
So
29 now.
I think it's
Something like
29
that.
now.
Trappers Anonymous?
Trappers Anonymous. His is like 29, maybe $27.99. I got in when he first started, so originally started at $19.99, but I want to say right now it's about 27. But lots of information. I mean, like, you're gonna be overwhelmed with information, but you can go through it on your own pace. And it's a lot of engagement, so you can deal with the people in there and learn a lot. But I highly suggest that, because that's a very affordable course to group to be a part of, and it's very interactive. Like, there's stuff happening every single day. So, if you're busy, ever learned about, on my level of doing stocks is more, through a company, how I do it with my business. But personally, managing your own stocks and studying companies, you really will learn a lot from that group.
Okay.
Sounds good. I guess we should log off. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
see
think he's
that.
coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, because it's past the hour too, so maybe he's gone. But all
Okay.
right, guys. Well, it was great talking to you guys today.
Hey, Lindsay, I'll be reaching out to you because I need to set my family up with the life
Great.
insurance.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
Malik passed your information off
Oh, he
to
did.
me.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate it. All right.
All right. Good
All
seeing you,
right.
Everybody have a good night. Bye.
All right. Talk to y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.